What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another video. Hope everybody's doing well. And yeah, we're going to dive straight into things. This is going to be a weekly review, and this week is FOMC. So we have interest rate announcements on the dollar and the pound. I do believe interest rates for the dollar are going to be announced on Wednesday as per usual. But yeah, we are in a bit of a sticky position in terms of where we are in price action. You can see we're in the discount in terms of our current trading range, and when I look at our trading range, I look at the two most significant swing highs, which will be this low to this high. And let me just get this split like this. And right now there's a few things I have my attention on. So this is the weekly time frame, and you can see that we're below the 50% level, which suggests we're in a discount. And then you can see that we do have some inversion fair value gaps to an extent, and then as we drop down to the low time frames, we will find and identify some other PD arrays which will help us. So first of all, I want to identify this inversion fair value gap. This is what we call a bullish inversion fair value gap, in that we've created a gap here and we've closed above it here with this week, and you can see how we've tapped into it multiple times. Now obviously the wicks are trading through price. We've traded here into a bullish order block and then got this nice reaction of the way off the back of that, and then since then we've been tampering around within that inversion fair value gap, but price is continuing to stay above this 50% level, as in volume is continuing to respect and stay above that 50% level. And what that suggests to me is that there is still a level of bullishness within price, otherwise it wouldn't fail consistently on a consistent basis. It wouldn't keep failing to trade through it. Like, yes, we've traded through it, but I mean, like, it's failing to close below it. So there's obviously some kind of resistance that we're finding at this 50% level, which is what's keeping me hopeful in terms of wanting to see and eventually a large up close at some point. Also, on the back of that, if you've been watching me for the past couple of weeks, you know that I've done some macro analysis in terms of looking at the commitment of traders and looking at the open interest, which just suggests we should be getting some kind of expansion or movement towards the upside at some point. So because of that as well, that is what's also almost direct my bias. But genuinely looking at this, it's either, if it's going to trade lower, it's going to run and it's going to go aggressively straight into these lows. And I think it'll do it very fast. However, if price does manage to carry on showing this bullishness in terms of us failing to get through this 50% level of a weekly inversion fair value gap, then there's no reason why we wouldn't see a very aggressive expansion to the upside. And then we can start thinking about these highs here, 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 and here being traded to. So let's drop down to the daily, and you'll see again more of the consolidation. As you drop down to this time frame, you can see how messy it is, and how just generally messy it is, and what's making price difficult to trade at this point. Now we do have a bullish order block right here. Again, we've traded down into that last week on Tuesday. I am going to mark out the open of that like so, and you can see our price has traded into it a few times, but it's still mainly and predominantly staying above it. And then another thing to take note of is the 50% level off this bullish order block, and you'll see that again, look at where volume is starting and closing around it. So in terms of the new week, I will drop down to the 4 hour. It would be nice to see if price can start trading higher right off the back of things. I'm not really looking for much downwards price action. The fact that we came down, filled this fair value gap now, and price just hanging around inside, I'm looking to see if we can crawl outside of it. What I want to see is, so this red box, remember this is a weekly inversion fair value gap. If we can get above this high off it, which is right here obviously, if we can get above that, I'd want to see it use it as support, and then I'd want to see it use it as support, and then some expansion off the back of it, and then we can start looking for this high and potentially this high to be ran. But I think I'm going to let Monday trade first, and then off the back of that, I'll be more confident in what I'm expecting. Another thing to take note of as well is we do have, assuming price is going to trade higher, we do have a breaker here in terms of low, high, lower, low, and then expansion. This large return back down into that did throw me off last week, but again, nothing's necessarily complete. Nothing's like gone against my bias of wanting to see a higher dollar. But as soon as we see one significant daily high get taken, I think it'll be pretty smooth sailing in terms of expecting the rest to. Now, obviously, if we're going to have an up close candle, we need to have some kind of discount to be traded to. As in, we need to create some kind of low wick. So where could that be? Well, you can see we've just opened recently, but as I just said, we've got this breaker level, which bullish order block, which I just marked out from the 4 hour. I need to start labeling these. This is a daily bullish order block, so let's get that marked out. Let me just write daily bullish order block. That's the daily bullish order block. And then let's go back down to the 1 hour. And like I said, price is very welcome to come back down into that and trade inside of that. And then also looking at this large wick as well, same thing, we can split it into, well, we can split it into quarters. And I'll be looking at the 50% level, which also happens to line up with the low of this weekly red box, which I just spoke about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of having this weekly red box, which makes things a little bit, you know, messy, I'll just mark it out with some lines. And we'll make the lines a different color. We'll make them orange just so that we know that this is going to be the weekly inversion fair value gap that we're currently trading within. And then let's go back down to the 1 hour. Get rid of a few things, and now we can see where we're trading within that range. So like I said, I'm happy for price to stay within here. I'm happy for us to create the low at this bullish order block, or if it needs to trade to the bottom of this inversion fair value gap. Any lower than that, I'll be a little bit suspicious. But until then, obviously, like I said, we have our Sunday opening price now, which is right here. So I usually make that red and dotted. So obviously, if we're having an up close week, I'd want to see price create some kind of low. So maybe on Monday it might trade below there, maybe fill in the fair value gap, and then potentially trade on higher. But obviously, I tend to let Monday trade first anyway. So that's what we're going to do. And let me just get rid of. Oops. Let me just move this here. But overall, I want to see if we can get into that buy side liquidity. But again, it's a matter of time, and obviously wait and see what Monday does. We've got some relatively equal lows below here. I do believe Monday may try and target those, which is completely fine. And then again, this little consolidation, this back and forth price action is where I'm expecting us to be reaccumulating before we do potentially trade on higher, assuming price does want to run at that buy side. So that's going to be everything on dollar. I hope that all makes sense. Again, I'm going to let tomorrow trade, Monday trade, and then we can start getting into more in-depth analysis for what we may want to see for the rest of the week. We will head on to GBP USD now. Obviously, if we're going to anticipate a potential up week on the back of FOMC on dollar, it means that there needs to be room for some kind of downwards price action on pound. Now, again, we can look at this up close candle right here, and you can see that we're respecting the 50% level, which is what we call mean threshold. So I'm happy for price to rally above there, but ideally it doesn't spend much time up there. Again, look at the volume. Volume continues to respect the 50% level of this wick. Off this candle. So that's already saying to us that there's resistance at that level, which is what we want to see, assuming we want price to potentially trade lower. Otherwise, you know, it'd have an easier job at trading higher. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some clean highs here. We've got this weekly high, we've got this weekly high, and this weekly high. So that's why I'm allowing price to be able to rally to an extent. It's just that ideally, again, it doesn't spend much time up there, but I'd happily let it create some kind of high. So on the daily, we can mark out this bearish order block, because it's very clear. Make it blue, and I'll write daily bullish order block. This is a bearish order block. So I'm happy for price to rally up to there at the most, and then after that, I'd want to see us reverse to some kind of extent and start thinking about running into these lows here and here. And then on the 4 hour, we can take another look, and you can see again all the consolidation that we've been in very recently, the beautiful relative equal highs I was talking about. So if we look above this high, this high, this high as well, and I'll show you what I mean. These are all relative equal highs. There's no reason price wouldn't want to try and snatch that. So if price can trade above it, that would be nice to be seen if it happens earlier on in the week. And then on the back of that, I'd want to see some kind of reversal in line with dollar, hopefully. And then if we look up here, you can see there's a breaker, high, low, higher high. We traded into that here, and then we've had expansion to the downside. It's very typical for us to return to breakers, so seeing us up in this premium again and potentially trading into this daily bearish order block basically adds up for me, is what I'm saying. I like the look of this gap. If that can stay open, again, that's very indicative of lower price action. 1 hour, there's not really much I really want to talk about on the 1 hour right now. Again, I'm going to let Monday trade first, and then we can get into the details. But generally speaking, moving into tomorrow, I don't really anticipate price to be I don't expect much downwards price action. I'd like to think that we can see some rallying. That would make me confident that, you know, we're likely going to, if we can see some kind of high get made earlier on in the week, it'll make me confident that FOMC and, you know, the pound's interest rates will be able to turn price on the back of that. So that's going to be everything on pound. I hope that all makes sense. And we are going to finish up on Euro USD. And we're going to start here on the weekly as well. And again, you can see what we're currently trading into on a weekly level: high, low, higher, high displacement. So if we look at this range, this last up close candle, you can see that we're currently inside of that, which is what we call a breaker. So again, there's reason that we should be going this on a weekly level. There's reason as to why we should be shorting at this point. It's just a matter of time before we get that large expansion and price starts running. But nonetheless, if we want to see a down close candle, we can start to look again where are we allowing price to rally to. Well, it looks like we've got some rejection block levels up here. Why? We tapped into it here, we tapped into it here, tapped into it here, and we're constantly getting rejected. So now what I'm looking at is this large wick. We can look at the 50% level of this weekly wick, and that will pretty much be the highest I'd want to see price trade for me to remain confidently bearish. Obviously in line with what dollar's doing, etc. And you can see there's a bearish order block that lines up. You'll notice I also just wiped out the 75% level as well off the range, which is completely fine. 50% at the most, but like, you know, we gotta leave room is what I'm saying. And then again, early parts of the week, ideally we see some kind of rallying happening or some push higher into this premium where we can start looking for potential shorting opportunities, and then get a reversal on the Wednesday hopefully, or on the back of Tuesday. But yeah, should be interesting. But yeah, that's going to be everything, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that all makes sense. Don't forget to drop a like, drop a comment, smash subscribe, join the mailing list, join the Discord. All the links are in the description. And after tomorrow, we'll have a much better look at what we may be expecting from price. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.